I am MD, host of the Fourth Branch program, inviting you to join me every Saturday at 10:30 a.m. and every weekday at 2 p.m. for discussions of social political issues and to dissect the meaning and the importance of current events as well as to understand topics of legislations. The Fourth Branch Project is not associated with any political party, and we at the Fourth Branch do not have any political agenda or aspiration. Our ultimate objective is to work towards achieving a more perfect union by removing ignorance, the biggest obstacle to our democracy. Stay with us. We will be right back. to the fourth branch program. Glad you can make it. I am MD. This program is dedicated exclusively for those with common sense, a spirit of patriotism, and a determination for a more perfect union. Stay tuned as we begin the discussion of a very important, interesting, and enlightening topic. Hope to hear from you soon. Happy listening. Hello everyone, I am MD and this is the fourth branch program. Welcome to a very special edition of the program. As we promised, today we will be talking exclusively about race relation in America. Yes, granted, for the past 2 months we have been talking about this particular topic, but today it is dedicated exclusively to that topic. First, we will take a quick look at something that we consider equally important. We'll just spend a couple of minutes talking about it. It's in regards to a survey that was taken by Newsweek. Here's what the survey says. The survey suggests, I believe that they interviewed close to 7,000 people. I'm not in possession of the survey, nor do I know how they formulated the question, but it is disturbing that we have 40% of those in the Republican Party who say that after the Mueller's report has been filed or turned in, the President of the United States, the White House, the executive branch, should ignore any subpoena by Congress. Yes, 40% in the Republican Party suggested that. Now, on the surface, it may sound like it is just partisan bickering, partisanship, support for Donald Trump. But it is not a very simple matter. And we will explain why it is so important to pay close attention to what we are about to say about this very specific survey. We have, for as long as we have had the two major parties, there have been a lot of bickering, a lot of pulling and pushing between members of the two parties, both constituent and politician. But for several decades now, there has been what we call a rapid erosion of our democracy. Nobody seems to pay attention to that. Now, it has happened in the past. We talk at great length about a civil war, and that was a point in our history during which time that there were millions of individuals who chose to be on the wrong side of history. Those were people who fought to keep slavery in the country. Fortunately, they lost. Now, as bad as that sound, as dark as that period in our history was, the current trend is even scarier. And the reason for that, you will see that in just a moment. Now, I spent a great deal of time talking about the ignorance of constituents in the Republican Party. And I also, without any doubt, received quite a lot of a peace of mind of those who think just the opposite. Now, if I were to ask how many people in the United States would like to do away with the Constitution? I wonder how many people would stand up and say, yeah, that's a great idea. But let me narrow it down further. How many people especially, and that's something that should catch the attention almost exclusively of those in the Republican Party. How many people in the Republican Party would want the Second Amendment to be removed or to be done away with? I would say almost unanimously, Republicans would stand and go against that, would even take to the street just to prevent that from happening. Now, in case you don't know what I'm referring to, right to bear arms. I remember very clearly when after Obama was elected the 44th president of the United States, before he was sworn in, sales of firearms and ammunition skyrocketed. And the reason is because mostly, almost exclusively, people in the Republican Party, there were rumors that Obama was going to do away with that, was going to put so many regulations that the Second Amendment would have no value. In other words, people do understand the importance of the Constitution. So it is baffling that you would have 40%, that's not a small number, 40% of the members in the Republican Party suggest that the executive branch should ignore subpoena by the legislative branch. In case you don't know what that means, it's simply saying that the president would act as a king and would not care about what other branches of our government say. It is very well written in our Constitution that there are 3 branches of government and they are equal. What that means is the executive branch cannot do things just because they choose to do it. And this is a very dark path that the Republicans again show that they're willing to be on the wrong side of history. And that's not an isolated case either. You may recall that shortly after Donald Trump was sworn in office, there was a survey conducted in which 42% of the Republicans suggest that Donald Trump should control the media. You see where I'm going with that? Now, the very first amendment in our Constitution is freedom of speech. Republicans have consistently, permanently, frequently walked towards another dark path in the history of our country. This is not partisanship, and it's not something to just shrug off. You see, Donald Trump doesn't have the popularity Adolf Hitler had. Thank God for that. For people who think Adolf Hitler became a dictator overnight, and for people who think that everybody hated Adolf Hitler, far from it. Adolf Hitler enjoyed close to 92% popularity in Germany. So this is not a small feat. So when you see someone heading towards the path of a dictator, it's not something that just happened overnight. Germany didn't lose its freedom. Germany was not a dictatorship before Adolf Hitler. It was a democracy just like the United States of America. It has the Reichstag and the Reichsrat, which is equivalent to Congress and the Senate here in the United States. But because of Adolf Hitler's popularity, he managed to do away with every aspect of the German government. At that time, it was called the Weimar Republic. And we know how that turned out, which triggered later World War II. So it is very troubling that people here in the United States, completely unaware of history, fully oblivious of their action, think that it's okay for the President of the United States to control the media. And now they say it is okay for the President to ignore the legislative branch. In other words, what the hell is the Constitution is good for? Why should we have one? If we're doing away with everything, freedom of speech, we're doing away with right to bear arms, now we're doing away with the legislative branch. Now, if I ask you, do we need a constitution? You would dance on your head and say, no, of course we do need a constitution. Then what is the Constitution good for when members of the Republican Party are simply saying the president should do whatever he wants? This is not small, and this is not politics. It is something that should be of concern not just to Democrats, but to Republicans as well, that their colleagues are oblivious of how the government works. They're oblivious that the very reason we have freedom, the very reason we have a system of democracy that the world is trying to emulate, is because of our Constitution. It's because of the structure of our government. In the 19th century, Republicans were on the wrong side of history. Now, in the midst of the 21st century, once again, the Republican Party is walking on the wrong side of history. And this time, it is necessary for every United States citizen, for every patriot to stand up, because our children, our grandchildren may not be left a country that has the freedom, that enjoy the democracy that we currently cherish and enjoy. Yes, Republicans are completely oblivious of the importance of the structure of our government. In a sense, as blunt as that may sound, this is full, complete ignorance on the part of the Republicans.
Ignorance, they say, is the biggest threat to any democracy. Indeed, it is. Plato, a Greek philosopher born in 427 BC, said that ignorance is the root and stem of all evil. Today, members in the Republican Party wear ignorance as a badge of honor, while the rest of the country watch powerless the destruction of a country which was once the envy of the world. The media is the enemy of the country, said Donald Trump. The Democrat legislators are obstructionists for not going along with everything the president wants. The Department of Justice is biased for investigating corruption in the Trump administration. This is the United States of America. Any question?
Donald Trump is wrong to call the media the enemy of the people. Throughout history, dictators, authoritarians have always tried to delegitimize the media in order to get away with corruption, scandal, and yes, even abuses. Adolf Hitler did exactly the same thing in 1933, accusing the media of fabrication. Journalists are not in the business of fairness. Our only business, is to be objective. It is our duty to hold Trump and every administration accountable. Today, it is urgent. It is necessary. It is critical. Our very freedom depends on it. I do apologize for diverting a little bit about the topic today because, as I mentioned, we did promise to dedicate today to discuss exclusively race relation in America. But we found that too important to simply push aside and wait until next week to talk about. The Constitution of the United States is what makes the United States what it is today. It is what makes the United States the envy of the world. It's what makes the United States the country that the world look up to for leadership. And that's also the reason a lot of countries in the world are trying to emulate what we have here. Ironically, citizen of the country, citizen of the United States, oblivious enough, ignorant enough to say, the hell with that, we don't need it. Who needs the Constitution? We have a president we love. Freedom is not something that's going to stay around if you don't protect it. People died for freedom, shed blood. We even expend our own soldiers, our own armed personnel to go overseas to help other countries so that they can enjoy freedom. So it is sad. We're not talking about politics. It is sad, extremely sad. It is troubling. In fact, if you are a concerned citizen, if you think about future, if you think about the next generation, and you, again, I don't know how this survey was structured, because sometimes you receive a survey and the way that whoever put that survey out, the way that they frame the question, usually want you to answer a very specific way. So I cannot speak about the survey in particular. This conversation is about the outcome of the survey, because the outcome says that 40% of Republicans suggest that Donald Trump simply ignores subpoena from the legislative branch. Now, it may sound like politics to you, because, hey, Donald Trump is Republican, now Congress is run by Democrat. So let's just prevent them from doing anything. It sounds like it's politics, but it's not. It's worse than that. It is 40% of Republicans do not understand what it is, what the Constitution is, do not understand how the Constitution works. 40% of Republicans are so ignorant that they're willing to simply do away with the Constitution. This is not small. This is something that should outrage the rest of the country, to see that there are so many individuals in one party that are so ignorant that they're willing to jeopardize our freedom. They're willing to jeopardize our democracy, and they're willing to trash our Constitution. And this is not the first time, as I mentioned, which means it is a pattern that's becoming very dangerous. Adolf Hitler did not become a dictator overnight. Yes, he had the intention, but he gradually became what the world finally understand that what he was. The other day, Michael Cohen said something that's chilling. Now, it sounds like something that could never happen in America. He said that if Donald Trump loses 2020, there will not be a peaceful transition. Now, you may not understand, especially for those who seem not to understand the importance of our Constitution, that seem not to understand the freedom that we've enjoyed. To say that, even for that to come to someone's mind, is chilling, let alone hearing it. What he just suggested is exactly what we're talking about. A dictator. Someone who simply thinks he can do anything he wants, and the Constitution doesn't matter. Now, it's one thing that Donald Trump would think that way, but when you have 40% of members in a party thinking that way, that's dangerous. And you know what's even more dangerous is that you have people like the legislators, Republican legislators, and you have people in the media like Fox that are amplifying this type of messages. If you don't see the danger, just like we had to fight a civil war in order to wake the senses to those who were straying away, because that happened in the past. It's not that it cannot happen. It can happen because we saw it, we witnessed it. It's written in the annals of history that at a time in the history of the United States, there were millions of people who were who stood on the wrong side of history. So we had experience that can happen, and today it is alarming. You may shrug it off because, hey, it's just the Republicans. The Civil War happened because it was just a group. It was just that group. So for those of you who still have some senses, some logic left, Republicans in particular, it is become necessary to talk to your friends, to your family members, to those who think it that way, because obviously 40% is not small. That means the neighbor you have, the neighbor next door, family members, people you may have not talked about because they take a different, they belong to a different political party. It's time you start talking to them because they're taking the country down another dark path in the history of the Republic. A network like Fox should pay a price for becoming a propaganda machine in the destruction of our democracy. Yes, Fox, the network that 100 million people watch, that network, instead of educating the citizen of the country, they're using that platform to continue to dumbify its audience and to spread messages that destroy the very fabric of our society. It is not funny. P.J. O'Rourke said that the idea of a news broadcast used to be you find someone with information and you broadcast it. That used to be the idea. That's the way it used to be. That's when you go to journalism school, that's what they teach you. You go and find information. You interview people. You try to get information to the public. Today, here's what Fox has become. The idea is to find someone with ignorance and spread it around. That's what broadcast at Fox becomes. It used to be you find people with information and broadcast it. Today, you tune into Fox, all that they do is find people with ignorance and spread it around. The United States of America is in serious jeopardy.
In 1996, a small network by the name of Fox News was launched with just 17 million viewers. Today, with over 100 million people watching regularly, Fox has become the greatest threat to our democracy, constantly bombarding the airwaves with false information, distortion of facts, and outright lies presented to its audience as news. Fox has created an army of blissful ignorance. According to a survey, 82% of Fox viewers are ignorant of facts and the truth. To keep millions of people in ignorance not only prevents democracy from flourishing, but it also clears the path to authoritarianism, to dictatorship. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Nothing in all the world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity." Let me finish by saying that democracy cannot survive in an environment where truth and facts do not matter. At Fox, truth and facts do not matter. Indeed, democracy in America is in jeopardy. It is a crisis the country can no longer ignore.
Once again, I humbly apologize for having done this detour to talk about a topic that we did not intend to debate. If you join us for the first time, we do have our People Branch YouTube channel, in which you can follow those steps, in which you will find a number of videos that we've already produced of various topics, and that includes what we're talking about now and what we will be talking about shortly, which is the race relation in America. So if you follow those steps that are on your screen, step 1, you go to youtube.com. Step 2, on the search bar, you type People Branch, one word, and it will produce the image on the left hand side, which is under step 3, which at the very top, the logo, the People Branch logo. If you click on that logo, you will obtain what's on the right side under step 4, which is all the videos that are currently on the People Branch YouTube channel. And there you can browse, or you can search for a particular video. Now, the video about race relation that we will talk about shortly, you will find it under race relation, war on blacks, or institutionalized racism. So those three titles are the location in which you will be able to find this specific topic that we will be talking about shortly. While you're there, I encourage you to subscribe to the People Branch YouTube channel, and also to follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. It is extremely important that you subscribe and follow us, because that will give us the opportunity to send you advice, to send you update, and to alert you of other activities that we are having in various parts of the country. So please do subscribe to the People Branch YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter and on Facebook, and this way you can stay completely connected to this program. You also can take a look at the peoplebranch.org, which is where we have a number of articles of various topics, political, social, that discuss, we even talk about some, we even have some articles about science. So you will find the site really truly interesting, enlightening, inspiring. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back to continue the conversation about race relation in America. You are on the Fourth Branch program.
Hi, I am MD, host of the Fourth Branch program. War on Blacks is a topic added to the Fourth Branch programming in order to discuss the intricacies, the complexities of race relation in America. The goal is threefold. 1. To bring attention to the various forms of prejudice, discrimination, and racism in the country. 2. To expose the undeniable presence of such in every aspect of life and every corner of our society. 3. To extricate us all from the ignorance, the indifference, or the complicity. The ultimate objective is to make the discussions of those issues, racism, prejudice, discrimination, a normal part of our lives. Then, and only then, will we as a society be able to eradicate the problem. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Nothing in all the world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity." Abraham Joshua Heschel exclaimed, "Racism is man's gravest threat to man, the maximum of hatred,
for the minimum of reason. Join me in the journey to restore equality. Or would you please get out of the way? Thank you. Thank you for staying with us. Let's talk about the topic of the day, race relation. War on Blacks is a banner under which we discuss race relation in America. Now, if you join us for the first time, yes, the banner may sound pretty strong. A number of people have asked the question, which war on Blacks? Now, we use that banner exclusively to point to salient facts such as casualties. As you know, in war, there are casualties, and casualties on Blacks have been mounting. And that's our main reason behind picking that banner in order to discuss an issue which is sensitive. Now, since we've started the discussion around this topic, it is probably pointless to say that we've had our share of disagreement, pushback, and so on. You may recall, if you've been watching this program, that in order to understand or to bring a solution to this lingering problem, we took a step. We actually jumped back to the period of slavery in order to understand the dynamic, the interaction between blacks and whites. We also went to that period in order to be able to see, to follow the path, the progress or lack of it in that relation, in this interaction, in order to see how this whole dynamic evolves through time. We left off at the bottom of the Civil War bridge. Now, for those of you who have not watched this program before, once again, I strongly encourage you to go to the People Branch YouTube channel and take a look at past video. There are plenty of it already on People Branch YouTube channel, which are videos that are archived there, and so that you can kind of follow through with us in that journey to put an end to racism in America. Now, we took not a break, but we stopped we took a detour from talking about the period right after the Civil War in order to address contemporaneous events, in order to address contemporaneous events and to point to those type of issues that are still present with us. And when we go back to where we left off, it will be somewhat easier to understand, although yes, we will still need to fill the blank between the end of the Civil War and today. But as we go back and forth between those two times in our history, it will make it easier to understand the evolution of that, if we can call it that, or of the dynamic between or the changes, if we don't want to call it evolution, the changes between that period in time, slavery, Civil War, and today. A couple of days ago, there was a hearing, had nothing to do with black, with the topic itself. The hearing was about Donald Trump. It was Michael Cohen talking about his knowledge of the president, the 45th president. But there was a moment in that during that hearing that was provided to us. Again, it's like a snapshot, because when we're talking about race relation, it is sometimes, for some people, it is this idea that simply, it is just a discussion, but it's not tangible. It's not something that they can relate to. In fact, during the time, even before we started this program, I have conversed, dialogue with people, white, who have no knowledge whatsoever of, or who have had no opportunity whatsoever of interacting with blacks. So the discussion is almost like it's philosophical to them. They have no understanding and of really when we're talking about racism, we're talking about discrimination, we're talking about inequality. It is not a concept that they can grasp, because they do not have, they belong to a state, maybe a community, they belong to churches, they go to work, but the only people they interact with are people of the same race, so they have no idea. During the Michael Cohen hearing, we got a snapshot of how whites think in terms of the behavior, I should say. The behavior of whites in regards to blacks is a complex one, because it is right there in front of, especially if you live in an environment that maybe home, church, work, you, even if at work you interact with blacks, but if in your community, church, the supermarket you go to, all the different venue, entertainment, etc., all of that, there is no interaction with blacks, and the only time you have the opportunity to interact with blacks is at the workplace. For instance, politicians who travel could find themselves in that very situation that I just described. They do not have any interaction with other races but at work, and the interaction could be really not really 8 hours of interaction, but could be casual interaction. Not only casual, but very short duration. And it's usually within a professional environment, and it may not really dawn on them in terms of their behavior, their language, or what have you. So during the hearing, it so happened that Mark Meadows is a congressman from North Carolina. And it was a devastating hearing when it comes to what Donald Trump has done in terms of corruption. And anybody who lives in the United States of America, whether you support Donald Trump or not, even if you were to be blind, even if you were to be deaf, you would know that Donald Trump administration is the most corrupt that the United States of America has had, and Donald Trump is the most corrupt individual who has occupied the Oval Office. And to top it all off, he is the first individual whose words you cannot take at any time for true. Washington Post was doing, I don't know if they still do, probably still, tallying lies that the President of the United States has said since he took office. As of last time that was reported, it was to the tune of 8,700, almost calculated as at 60 to 70 lies per day. That's unheard of. And Mark Meadows found it necessary, after Michael Cohen, during his opening statement, and of course during questioning, he said that Donald Trump is racist. Now, I don't know where Mark Meadows lives, but there is not a single individual in the United States who doesn't know that. Michael Cohen was not saying anything that was earth-shattering. He wasn't saying anything that people didn't know about already. Everybody on the face of this planet even knows that Donald Trump is racist. In fact, the President of the United States is someone that watched, that followed by the world. And on the national stage, he called other countries shithole countries, black countries. So the world knows that Donald Trump is racist. But for a reason that nobody understands except Mark Meadows, he went out of his way to defend Donald Trump on that. Now, that's not the only thing Michael Cohen said during the hearing. There were more important or even more devastating things that would jeopardize the presidency of Donald Trump. And yet Mark Meadows found necessary to defend Donald Trump about that particular aspect, the racism aspect. I'm not sure why, because even if Mark Meadows were to be the most stupid congressman, at least he would be armed with knowledge that, yes, the world knows Donald Trump is racist. So why did he find it necessary to defend him? I don't know that the answer to the question, but he did. But what he did was unbelievable. Actually, any individual in the United States, even the individual who are racist, would know that the best way to prove that you are racist is by propping individual of another race and say, see, I'm not racist, I'm friend with a black man, I'm friend with a black woman. That should not be This should not be news to any individual. And yet Mark Meadows did exactly that. He went out of his way to bring to the floor Lynn Patton, who is currently working for the Department of Housing, who happened to be black, and brought her behind him to prove that Mike Cohen was wrong. You have to understand this is unbelievable because, as I mentioned, that everybody in the country knows that Donald Trump is racist. Everybody knows that. And that's what Mark Meadows chose as that's an issue, that's a topic he chose to use to defend Donald Trump. And Rashida Tlaib, who is a congresswoman from Michigan, wouldn't have it as a black woman. In fact, before Ms. Tlaib took to the floor, I personally was already offended by Mr. Meadows doing that, because the aspect, if you want to know if a white individual is racist, don't listen to what they say, to what he or she says. Watch what he or she does. Because anybody can say, I'm not racist. You know I'm not racist. I have black friends. Donald Trump said that during the campaign. I don't know if you recall. I have many black friends. If you have to say that, you already know where you stand. It's a guarantee. So, Mrs. Tlaib would not have it. Now, it would be unfair for me to try to explain what transpired. Instead of trying to do that, we're going to let you hear for yourself, see the conversation, see the how the whole thing, what happened exactly. Now, there is an update. We watched that yesterday, and of course it was earth-shattering to me that Mrs. Tlaib made up with Mark Meadows. She hugged him, say, all right, it was just in the heat of the moment. I'm putting that out there now because I don't know that's what she said. And she hugged him. Now, if you heard all that, does that mean Mark Meadows is racist? Is it what I'm saying? Well, let's watch first, and then we'll come back and try to understand what really happened at the hearing. And then we'll come back and, talk about that. Let's watch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, all of you, for centering this committee on our sole purpose is exposing the truth. And some of my colleagues can't handle the truth, and this is unfortunate because it's the center of what is protecting our country right now. The people at home are frustrated, Mr. Cohen, and they want criminal schemes to stop, especially those from the Oval Office. Mr. Cohen, I am upset and know that my residents feel the same way, that a man you worked for the past 10 years is using the most powerful position in the world to hurt our country solely for personal gain. We are upset that some of our colleagues here are so disconnected of what it means to have this President of the United States sending checks to cover bribe payments, not hush payments, bribe payments you made on his behalf. One in 2017 of March, and another August 2017 after he was sworn in as president. They are upset that while my colleagues are trying to discredit your testimony by some of your own unlawful acts and lies, that they are disconnected with the fact that you were the personal lawyer for this president of the United States, that this president chose you as his legal counsel. My stance has always been the same, Mr. Chairman, based on the facts, not on future reports that we're all waiting on. My residents back home don't need a collusion clause with a foreign government to know this president, individual one, has disregarded the law of the land, the United States Constitution, and that he has misused his pardon powers. In the sentencing memo, Mr. Cohen, filed by the federal prosecutors in New York in December of last year, they stated, quote, in particular, and as Cohen himself has now admitted with respect to both payments, he acted in coordination with and at the direction of individual one. Mr. Cohen, as you know, President Donald J. Trump brand comes first, not the American people. Based on what you know now, based on what we know now, is that individual one used his money, businesses, and platform to enrich himself, his brand, and then the process directed you, Mr. Cohen, to commit multiple felonies, and you covered it up, correct?
That's correct.
You called it protecting his brand, correct?
And him as well.
Mr. Cohen, with this, do you think the President of the United States is making decisions in the best interest of the American people?
No, I don't.
Especially those you said that he used horrible words about, like African Americans, Muslim Americans, and immigrants?
Yes.
Just to make a note, Mr. Chairman, just because someone has a person of color, a black person working for them, does not mean they aren't racist. And it is insensitive that some would even say it's the fact that someone would actually use a prop, a black woman, in this chamber, in this committee, is alone racist in itself. Donald Trump is setting a precedent.
Mr. Chairman, I ask that her words be taken down.
Donald Trump is setting a precedent. I reclaim my time.
Mr. Chairman,
Trump is setting a precedent.
Mr. Chairman,
that the highest office can be attained.
Mr. Chairman, the rules are clear.
Activity. Cover up and hold on to business assets to break campaign finance laws and constitutional clauses. What we have here, Mr. Chairman, is criminal conduct and the pursuit of the highest public office by Mr. Cohen and individual one. I hope that the gravity of this situation hits everyone in this body,
the court report,
and in Congress and across this country. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield the rest of my time.
Mr. Chairman, I ask that her words, when she's referring to an individual member of this body, be taken down and stricken from the record. I'm sure she didn't intend to do this, but if anyone knows my record as it relates, it should be you, Mr. Chairman.
Chairman, I would like to...
Hold on.
I want the words read back.
No.
We want to know exactly what she said about a colleague.
Excuse me. Would you like to rephrase that statement, Ms. Tlaib?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I can actually read it from here. Just to make a note, Mr. Chairman, that just because someone has a person of color, a black person working for them, does not mean they are racist. And it is insensitive that someone would even say racist, say it is racist in itself, and to use a black woman as a prop to prove it otherwise. And I can submit this for the record. If a colleague is thinking that that's what I'm saying, I'm just saying that's what I believe to have happened. And if, as a person of color in this committee, that's how I felt at that moment, and I wanted to express that. But I am not calling the gentleman, Mr. Meadows, a racist for doing so. I'm saying that in itself, it is a racist act.
Well, I hope not, Mr. Chairman, because I need to be clear on this particular... Mr. Chairman...
Mr. Meadows, wait a minute.
I've defended you with false accusations.
Mr. Meadows, I'm the chair.
Yes, sir, you are.
Thank you. Right. I will clear this up. Now, Ms. Tlaib, I want to make sure I understand. You were not intending to call Mr. Meadows a racist, is that right?
No, Mr. Chairman, I do not call Mr. Meadows a racist. I am trying, as a person of color, Mr. Chairman, just to express myself and how I felt at that moment. And so, just for the record, that's what was my intention.
All right. All right. Mr. Meadows.
Mr. Chairman, there's nothing more personal to me than my relationship. My nieces and nephews are people of color. Not many people know that. you know that, Mr. Chairman, and to indicate that I asked someone who is a personal friend of the Trump family, who has worked for him, who knows this particular individual, that she's coming in to be a prop. It's racist to suggest that I asked her to come in here for that reason. Mr. President, the president's own person, she's a family member. She loves this family. She came in because she felt like the president of the United States was getting falsely accused. And Mr. Chairman, you and I have a personal relationship that's not based on color. And to even go down this direction is wrong, Mr. Chairman.
First of all, I want to thank the gentleman for what you have stated. If there's anyone who is sensitive with regard to race, it's me. Son of former sharecroppers that were basically slaves. So I get it. I listened very carefully to Ms. Tlaib, and I think, and I'm not going to put words in her mouth, but I think she said that she was not calling you a racist. And I thought that we could clarify that, because you, Mr. Meadows, you know, and of all the people on this committee, I've said it and got in trouble for it, that you're one of my best friends. I know that shocks a lot of people.
And likewise, Mr. Chairman.
But you are. And I could see and feel your pain. I feel it. And so, and I don't think Ms. Tlaib intended to cause you that kind of pain and that kind of frustration. Did you have a statement, Ms. Tlaib? I'm going to yield to you. We can just straighten this up.
Mr. Chairman, and to my colleague, Mr. Meadows, that was not my intention, and I do apologize if that's what it sounded like, but I said someone in general. And as everybody knows in this chamber, I'm pretty direct, so if I wanted to say that, I would have, but that's not what I said. And thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing me to clarify. But again, I said someone. And again, I was not referring to you at all as a racist.
Well, I thank the gentlewoman for her comments. I thank the chairman for working to clarify this, and I appreciate the chairman's intervening.
Hi, I am MD, host of the Fourth Branch program. War on Blacks is a topic added to the Fourth Branch programming in order to discuss the intricacies, the complexities of race relation in America. The goal is threefold. 1. To bring attention to the various forms of prejudice, discrimination, and racism in the country. 2. To expose the undeniable presence of such in every aspect of life and every corner of our society. 3. To extricate us all from the ignorance, the indifference, or the complicity. The ultimate objective is to make the discussions of those issues, racism, prejudice, discrimination, a normal part of our lives. Then, and only then, will we as a society be able to eradicate the problem. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Nothing in all the world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity." Abraham Joshua Heschel exclaimed, "Racism is man's gravest threat to man, the maximum of hatred for the minimum of reason." Join me in the journey to restore equality. Or would you please get out of the way? Thank you. if you were taking a quiz about racism, would you say Mark Meadows is racist? Would you be able to tell? Is he? Well, he did say he has 2 nephews who are people of color. What do you think? Can you tell? Would you be able to decipher the whole thing? Now, we started this the discussion of this topic by asking, is it possible that someone can be oblivious to racism? Do you think that's possible, that someone is racist and not know that he or she is racist? Now, we always take the extreme to understand racism, or anything for that matter. For instance, the white supremacy, the white nationalists, there is no if and but about it, there is no middle ground, there is no gray ground. We know that they are racist. They do not argue against that. In fact, they're proud of their position. So that makes it easy to deal with. So if you do not want to deal with people who are racist, then you can avoid them altogether. But the white nationalists, the white supremacists, do not make the bulk of those who are racist who are actually discriminated in the country. We know that because racism, discrimination rampant in the whole country. It's everywhere. At the job, at the supermarket, on the street, at even the Justice Department. So, is it possible that people who are racist do not know they are racist? Is there a way for them to find out? Is there a way for any individual to find out he or she is racist? Now, culture and being exposure to people, to environment, change the way that individual act or react towards others. Well, that's including blacks. I remember a couple of decades ago, I worked for an organization which I cannot divulge because that would make it clear who I'm talking about. And during a meeting, there were a bunch of people at the table discussing different aspects of a solution we were trying to find for a particular client. And one individual said something that was openly racist. In fact, the comment was something bad, something derogatory towards blacks. And there was complete silence. I was the only black in the room. So all the other people just stay silent, quiet. You can hear a pin drop. Of course, the gentleman who made the comment didn't realize what just happened because we were in the middle of conversation, heated conversation where everybody is giving opinion, ideas, etc., as to how to tackle the problem. And then suddenly, after his comment, complete silence. Now the question I asked before, I'll ask it again. Can someone be oblivious to racism? Now, in this particular example, I didn't go far enough to tell you that later on the manager, who was part of the meeting, came and asked me if I want to file a complaint. I did not. because I thought, okay, I file a complaint, the person loses the job, then what does that do for me? And besides, I'm fairly certain among the other people who were in the room that were so quiet, chances are there are many of others who felt exactly the same way. No, I did not. As I mentioned before here in this program, the way that people feel about an individual feel about black people, if you feel you don't like me because I'm black, you don't change anything about me. What this program is about is not about trying to feel good that people no longer discriminate, but rather trying to change the state of racism in America so that future generations can have a better country to live in. I do not care if the neighbor next door doesn't like me because I'm black. I do not care if I walk down the street and somebody, a white individual, doesn't like me, because it doesn't change a thing about me. But to the question at hand, can someone be oblivious to racism? Now, the scenario, the example I just gave you, obviously happened because a white individual sitting in a room full of other whites with just one black, maybe he forgot that I was there, maybe he forgot that I am black. Whatever the reason, whatever was going through his mind, if everybody in the room was white, then he felt okay to talk, to say bad things about blacks. Now, a number of things that whites who discriminate, whites who are racist say about blacks, we're not talking about just jokes, because sometimes there are jokes about every race in life, and you find it across the board. Now, is a joke about an individual of a different race, does saying a joke about an individual of a different race a racist thing to do? Well, it depends. You may come across insensitive, but it may be construed or taken by the individual in the room as racist. But is it? As you might have already imagined, that the discussion of race relation is complex. Now, to help you understand one aspect of such, the problem of racism in America and discrimination, we cannot put it on white nationalists, we cannot put it on white supremacists or small groups of people who want nothing to do with blacks. Those people are living on the fringe. Racism, discrimination in America, rampant. You may recall I gave the example before. You download an application, or you go to a place, they hand you a job application. While you're filling the application, at the very bottom of the page, you see this statement, disclaimer: we are a EEOO company, Equal Employment Opportunity Organization. They have to put that, but that's all it is, because they discriminate, and it's across the board. Because when the decision is being made who to call for the job, it is guaranteed that 4 out of 5 times, a white individual will be called to be offered a job that the other individual, black, who may be better qualified, would not. That's what discrimination is. That's what racism is. Because if you're making the decision because it's black, not because of qualification, automatically we're talking about racism, we're talking about discrimination. When two people go in front of a judge, a black and a white individual, and the white individual is treated better, fairly, and the black individual is not, this is racism, this is discrimination. We call it institutionalized racism. Go down the street, stop and frisk. Blacks are stopped, whites are not stopped. Racism. You go to a store, the blacks are followed, the whites are not. Racism. Now those become second nature to individuals who are racist, who discriminate, that they don't even realize they are. So that brings the answer to your question. Can someone be oblivious to racism? The short answer is yes. There are people who are completely oblivious they are racist. Now that adds another complexity to our conversation. It makes it even more difficult to solve the problem, because if a doctor cannot find that you suffer of some sort of illness, then you cannot get cured for it. The same thing applies here in our conversation. Now, if you don't know you are racist, how can you work towards solving or removing that sentiment, that aspect, that thing in your life that make you racist? How can you possibly resolve it? In fact, you will get into heated argument, just like we saw earlier. Mark Meadows say, Mr. Chairman, you know me, I'm not racist. I have 2 nephews that are people of color. Does that make Mark Meadows non-racist? Far from it. In fact, in 2012, Mark Meadows went in a rampage of giving of rallies where, I'm paraphrasing here, but all the videos are there, where he said, we're going to send Obama back to Kenya. What do you think that is? What that undertone, what do you think it is? Everybody knows Obama was born in Hawaii. He provided his birth certificate. And yet, Mark Meadows, 2012, we're not talking about that far away. In 2012, at several rallies, Mark Meadows says, we're going to send Obama back to Kenya. What do you think that was? He couldn't say, we're going to defeat Obama. That's what he would have said if it were to be a white person. We're going to make sure we defeat that individual. That's not what he said. And he didn't say it once or twice, every time. Yes, people are racist. They have very specific language they use. Remember I mentioned to you, institutionalized racism is a system which condone, nurture, or even promote racist behavior, language, and action. So someone can stand days on his head and say, I'm no racist. I have black friends. I have 2 nephews that are people of color. That doesn't change anything, because racism is a sentiment that every now and then you express through your actions and your words. You cannot help it. You just cannot help it. No matter how much someone tries to tell you that he or she's not racist, spend 5-10 minutes with the individual, you will know. Because no matter how hard someone tries, if the person is racist, it will come out. Yes, there is a possibility that someone, as I mentioned earlier, may not even be aware that he or she is racist. And that is an aspect of the conversation we will address next week when we return for another interesting conversation on race relation on the 4th Branch program. We'll be right back.
Hi, I am MD, host of the 4th Branch program. War on Blacks is a topic added to the 4th Branch programming in order to discuss the intricacies, the complexities of race relation in America. The goal is threefold. 1. To bring attention to the various forms of prejudice, discrimination, and racism in the country. 2. To expose the undeniable presence of such in every aspect of life and every corner of our society. 3. To extricate us all from the ignorance, the indifference, or the complicity. The ultimate objective is to make the discussions of those issues, racism, prejudice, discrimination, a normal part of our lives. Then, and only then, will we as a society be able to eradicate the problem. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Nothing in all the world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity." Abraham Joshua Heschel exclaimed, "Racism is man's gravest threat to man, the maximum of hatred for the minimum of reason." Join me in the journey to restore equality. Or would you please get out of the way? Thank you.
Thank you for spending the time with me. I hope you enjoy the program. In the meantime, if you have question, comment, criticism, do not hesitate to send us those. We will act on them. We will do our best to do things better in the future. And we will respond to your comments, to your criticism. Should you have a topic, any topic you would like us to talk about, let us know. We will research it and we'll talk about here, right here on the 4th Branch program. In the meantime, we hope you have a wonderful weekend. Please do remember to go to the People Branch YouTube channel and watch other videos that not only talk about this particular topic we just talked about, but other topics as well. And while you're there, do not forget to subscribe to the People Branch YouTube channel. Follow me on Twitter and on Facebook so you can receive updates, you can receive invites, and you know what's going on with the 4th Branch. We thank you for staying with us, and we hope once again you have a wonderful weekend.
The 4th Branch podcast is brought to you in collaboration with the People Branch publication, which can be found on the People Branch website, located at peoplebranch.org. That's peoplebranch.org. That's peoplebranch.org website, in which you will find a number of very interesting articles. My name is Mike Duchesne, MD for short. I hope you have a great afternoon or a great evening, whichever it happens to be. Hopefully you can join me again next time for another interesting episode of this podcast. That was the Fourth Branch, live from New York. Good day.